welcome to For the Masses Podcast. My name is John Barrett, your host, and I'm back with a banger. We got a new studio. I'm happy that Sony's here. He's producing the podcast now, and bless him. And I have a guest here that I'm really excited about. Before I tell you who she is and what she does, please follow us on all platforms at For the Masses Podcast. Now, the young lady I have with me, she's a counselor. She's my sister in Christ, Cindy Zepeda Mija. How are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Did I butcher your name?
Yes, you did.
Oh, man. Well, in good fashion, that's what we expect to do. And I'm just happy to have you here. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
Well, you said I'm a school counselor. I've been in education for about 8 years. It's truly a passion of mine. I am born and raised in San Jose, California, and I've been there for maybe almost 25 years of my life, and then I moved over here to the East Coast, and I've been here since. And I came to Christ when I was 25 years old and have never looked back.
So you were born and raised in California?
Mm-hmm.
But your family's from Honduras?
My family's from Honduras, so I guess you can say. So my mom is from Honduras, and all my siblings were born in Honduras. I think my brother came here when he was younger. When he was 10 years old, and then my other two sisters came way later in life, and so I was the only one born here. So I guess I'm a child of an immigrant.
Yeah, for sure. So you're first generation American. Technically, is that what it's considered?
I'm not sure, but I think so.
Yeah,
I think I'm first generation college student, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so first generation, so that's a blessing. And so you came from Honduras, and so your mom's Honduran. How did she meet your dad?
I think they're from the same pueblo, town.
Okay.
So Pueblo, I think, means town, same area. And so she's known him. And then I think I don't even know how, but what I heard was that she continued making contact with my dad from afar. And then I don't know how he came here or whatever. I don't really know his story. He's not in my life.
Okay.
And so, and they made me, I guess my mom was taking care of him. I don't even know.
Yeah. So your dad, did he make a trip to Honduras, and then that's when you met your mom?
No, so they grew up together. My mom's known him since she was 10, maybe even younger. I don't really know how long, but they've known each other since forever.
That's fire. Long distance works, everyone. So your dad and your mom end up moving here, end up having kids here. You're the first person that was born here. How was life growing up in California as a Honduran American?
I guess Honduran American. So growing up, I guess you can say that I was just growing up. I was just here's life. This is what I'm doing. And it's kind of hard, though, because at the time, you really don't know what you're going through. But now that now that I'm an adult, now that I'm educated, now that, of course, I'm a school counselor, it's oh, my gosh, I went through all of that. Yeah. But growing up, I think it was kind of hard because my mom was working all the time. She came home late, and when she came home, she wasn't happy. She was always tired. She was always grumpy. Yeah. And I was the only girl in the household. And so me and my mom fought a lot. And, it was just a lot. It was a lot for me growing up. And it doesn't help that I'm someone that has big emotions. And so I became very rebellious as a child. And it was just hard for me. I think I was living in a standard household, a Latino household, where I'm not allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to go hang out with my friends. I'm not allowed to spend the night. I'm not allowed to go to the movies. And I'm over here what do you mean? Yeah. I'm not doing anything. Let me hang out with my friends. Every other family members hanging out with their friends, and I'm over here okay, so what am I doing wrong that I can't do that? I didn't understand.
And that's how you conceptualize it, hey, I'm doing something wrong. I can't go out, but my brothers can.
Yeah. I was this is annoying. My brother, he was 17 years older than me. So he was the only father figure in my life. And so on top of that, because when he told me not to do something, I had to listen.
Yeah.
But when my mom told me to do something, I was whatever. It was I would say, dysfunctional household.
So it was your mom, you, and how many brothers?
My mom and me. So my mom has 5 kids total. Okay. So she has my oldest brother and then my 3 older sisters, and then it's me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your brother was kind of filling the gap of the father figure?
For me, I guess you can say. Because me and him grew up together, so he basically raised me.
Yeah. That's dope. And then you guys grew up Catholic and you were Christian?
My family definitely has Catholic roots, but but my mom stepped away from the Catholic Church, and my brother. I don't think we necessarily grew up in church per se, but we always believed in God.
Yeah.
That was standard. You believe in God, and I think it's because in Latino culture, there's Catholic roots, very strong Catholic roots. So we're like, yeah, of course we believe in God.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys grew up with Catholic roots, as in like you would go on like holidays, like Easter,
So yeah, you go to church during Easter, you go to church during Christmas. What do they call it? Like the 2 day, 2 a year. That was my family. And my mom tried to go to church because she found Christ a long time ago, but she wasn't necessarily like heavily involved in like a Christian church.
So, but how did it like seep into the children? Like, how did the children start at least believing in God?
What do you mean? Like which children?
Like into you all? Like, how did she like until that? Did you guys say prayers during like dinner at nighttime?
No, we didn't do anything. Like no practices. I think the only thing is that when I was a young child, everybody was Catholic, so they would teach you the Father's Prayer, but in Spanish. So it was like, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, you know, my Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, blah, 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 but in Spanish. So that one, I think everyone like knew what that was.
Yeah, that's cool. So like everyone was like imparted about the faith. Everyone knew about God, but it wasn't like something you practiced other than a few times a year. Yeah. And so like fast forward, like you said you hit a rebellious period. Like what did that look like for you?
It was really bad. Okay. Well, for me, it looked like it was really bad. And in my family, it was horrible. It was like the worst thing on earth. But I hit a rebellious stage as soon as I became a teenager because I'm over here seeing all these families and friends hanging out. And I'm like, you want me to be home? Yeah. And I was like, and it was also, I didn't know at the time, but it was because I was really by myself all the time. Yeah. And, you know, my mom was working all the time. My brother's living his life. And I'm over here, okay, I'm by myself, not doing anything. They're not really teaching me anything. And so if they're not teaching me anything, the world is going to teach me, I guess you can say. That's how I can put it. And so I decided to have a boyfriend, and that was really bad. And that was when my brother decided to not be in my life. He was like, you want a boyfriend? Then I'm out. Jeez. And as a 14-year-old, I was like, what? Yeah. Like, why? Okay. And so I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna tough it out. I don't need you. Yeah. I could do it. I could do life without you, and I'm gonna make this happen. You know. But it was really a front at the time. I was like trying to survive that, but like really suppressing my feelings at the time. And so I relied on these boyfriends. I was out on not on the streets, but that's what my family would say. They would call me a callejera, which means like a girl, somebody on the streets, a girl on the streets. I hated being home. My family looked at me as this rebellious girl. You're like, something's wrong with you. You have attitude. You have issues. Like, you need to get it together. And I was like, screw you. Yeah. And let me leave. And like everybody in my family looked at me like that. And I was just like, I'm gonna just go.
Like they told you were like that, or
yeah, they told me. They told me. They were like, you have an attitude. Yeah. Something's wrong with you. Why can't you be like all the other girls listening to their fathers or whatever? And I'm just like, F you, you know, like I'm leaving, you know, like it was just so easy for me to not be home. At the time, of course now I understand, but at the time I didn't understand. Why I didn't want to be home. And I wasn't really like out there like doing drugs or like partying or anything, but not that I didn't have one sip of alcohol or I didn't smoke once. And it only happened once in high school. Yeah. So I talked back. I didn't listen to anybody. I was having a boyfriend, you know, it's the worst thing in the world. And I would say in my teenage years, that was considered very rebellious.
Yeah. So like in this rebellious season, were you feeling convicted by the Holy Spirit at any point?
No.
Yeah. Did you even know about that? Like,
no, I was like never heard of that. Yeah. Well, actually, I had my best friend at the time who always went to church, and she was like, you would hear in high school, oh, look at that Christian girl gone bad. Yeah. And I would always hear that, and I'm like, ha, 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 whatever. And then my best friend, though, was never like that. She was strictly about the faith, was serious about it. And she would talk to me. She would invite me to church. And, like, every time, if we did have a sleepover, she would have to leave like at 6 or 7 in the morning to go to church. And they would invite me all the time. And I always wanted to be around her.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be around her family. And luckily, my mom, she was the only person my mom did trust and was like, yeah, you could go ahead and go. So every time, I didn't go often, but every now and then I would hang out with her.
She planted a seed. and that's the ministry of presence, you know, and I think more and more in our lives, like we see those people who had that impact on us. And so your friend, she did that for you. So when you started going to church with her, did you start to like, hey, I want to know more about this God?
No.
Never?
No,
Never,
I was just
never
like,
convicted?
hey, I'm here. Like, what is Myra her name was Myra. What is Myra doing? I'm hanging out. That's all I was thinking. I was just thinking about how I guess I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So I'm just hanging out.
Yeah, that's a blessing. Shout out to Myra. Shout out for the ministry of presence. And so fast forward after that part. So like you went to college in
Let me
California?
see. So yeah, so I started in, I went to community college right after high school. And that's where everything like really, stuff hit the fan, right?
Yeah.
It was really bad. That's where things got worse. And I was introduced to actual parties and alcohol. And I would say that for about a couple years, every time I drank, which was often, I got drunk. And I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. I don't know what I said. I don't know who I spoke to. I don't know how I got home. But it was really bad. So here's all my teenage years. Everything accumulated, right? Didn't want to be home. I didn't talk to anyone in my family. Nobody knew what I was going through. I didn't know what I was going through.
Yeah.
It was like I didn't know nothing at the time. Then I go into college, drinking alcohol, coupling like putting together someone who's sad or someone who doesn't know what they're going through into alcohol and who doesn't know again. No one taught me how to drink alcohol or not to drink alcohol or like the responsibility of being around alcohol. And so when you couple those two together, I'm like, I'm basically a drunk.
Yeah.
And I didn't know though at the time. And so I was in a very toxic relationship at the same time. So again, here's something I never dealt with, a really toxic relationship. Then my family, who thinks I'm like the worst daughter, sister in the world. And but I'm really good at school.
Yeah.
School is something I can do. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. This is so easy for me. And let me go party or whatever. I don't want to be home still, but I'm coming home drunk. And yeah, but still nobody asked me what I'm doing. Yeah. What's wrong with you? Are you okay? It's still something's wrong with you.
Yeah. It was like, hey, something's wrong with you, and they kind of just let you be.
They just kind of, because they were like, I can't control Cindy. Yeah. She's crazy. Yeah. Like, and I guess we just gotta deal with her because as family we still stick together. Yeah. But it was I can only imagine how challenging it was for them. And then, yeah.
It's so crazy just hearing your story now from me, knowing you now, and like I don't get any of that from you. So like God works, He's real. And so you were in a period you were, you say to hit the fan, but like when did God start to pull you out? Was this like years later?
It was years later because I think it was definitely, I would say my downfall, like it took years for me to get down there because here I am in a dysfunctional family. Here I am, nobody knowing that I'm going through something. Yeah. Nobody asking. And it feels like nobody cares. I am having a difficult time. I think, well, I guess I am crazy. You know what I mean? And then here in college, in this toxic relationship, again, another thing I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to choose a healthy relationship or how to be in it. I didn't know like the signs of it or anything. Yeah. I'm here lacking so many things in my life. And it just got worse, right? So the alcohol, eventually, I do think now know that God saved me through a lot, but something, I was sexually assaulted at 19, and that was like killer for me. Yeah. That I started throwing tantrums. And again, my family thinking I'm crazy was like, you're really crazy now. Yeah. We don't know what to do with you. And I started going downhill there and then started doing things as someone who was lacking love at the time or lacking so many things. I fell into a lot of things just to feel love. I got into another relationship that wasn't good for me, and how it started. Yeah. It's gonna sound crazy, but how it started was he was already in a relationship, And I was a young girl at the time, and me thinking, how, like, he wants me.
He was older?
He was like 4 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah, but he had like a job, like a career. You know what I mean? He was not living with his parents. And for me, I think I was maybe 19. I think I was like 19, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a man. You know, like again, nobody taught me anything, but that's what I really thought at the time.
Yeah, that's what Jessica does to me.
I get it. But it was really hard at the time because I just wanted him. I was like, I don't care if there's another girl here. You know what I mean? And ultimately, they broke up because of me, and then me and him got together. But as you can imagine how that went, it didn't go well eventually. Yeah. So it started going down from there because I have not healed not once from my past, from everything. I have not healed, and here I am getting into this dysfunctional relationship again, and I'm like, and then I didn't really get drunk all the time, but when I did, it was so bad. Like, the alcohol was truly almost like a gateway for me to really not feel. Like, I didn't know that alcohol was doing that until my brother. So my brother, every boyfriend I had, he stopped talking to me. I was like, I'm done with you. And he eventually told me, because the alcohol was, like, I guess, an issue for him. I didn't know he was paying attention. And he talked to me, and he was like, hey, Cindy, you know, like, I am worried about you. And I was like, what? Yeah. Like, you know, and telling me, he goes, the way that you're drinking is really making me feel like you could become an alcoholic. He didn't say I was, but he was like, I'm just worried that might happen. So really be careful with the way that you drink. If you drink, you know, he was telling me how to be responsible. And when the one moment my brother did tell me something, like, that's good, like, life advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when I heard that, I listened to him. But, like, I could only imagine how that would have changed my life earlier. But he did it when God wanted it to happen.
Absolutely.
But and I was like, an alcoholic? Like, what? Like, I don't understand what's going on. And so I was still studying, and then this is where I guess it started going downhill. I got this really good job. I moved. My mom couldn't afford her apartment anymore, and we were living with my tia, my aunt. And I was sleeping on the floor, and I was like, Mom, you take the couch. And I was like, okay, Mom, like, I was 20. I think I was 23. I was like, it's time for me to go. Yeah. You know, I don't want my mom to worry about having to take care of me. So I got that job, and then I moved to Richmond in California, which is the best. Richmond. Yeah. I'm just kidding. It is the best. It's really good. I loved living there. Yeah. It was a really great experience, and I broke up with this guy, and I got into another toxic relationship. I was so good at being in a relationship because I was lacking so much love. Yeah. And but I couldn't tell that at the time, and so I was like, let me get into grad school. I have this job. I'm living out here by myself. Like, wow, things are in the up. Like, things are really good for me. But and I started playing soccer again, and it was just really good for a moment. Yeah. And then I started feeling like really tired. Like, I was like, damn, am I burnt out? Like, how am I feeling? Like, this is like, I don't know. Like, I just started feeling like I couldn't do it anymore. Like, and it's surprising because me, Miss Independent, me being able to do anything and everything by myself, I was like, and why am I tired, you know? And then so I think that's where the downfall started to. That's where God was trying to pull me in a little bit.
Yeah, and so did you, like, take a time? Did you evaluate? Did you start therapy? And like what helped?
There was so before I got out of that toxic relationship, I did start therapy for a second, just like 4 free sessions, and it helped me a little bit. And then I think that's where things started moving. And then I got into, instead of relationships, let me do friends with benefits. That was the worst thing ever for me. I couldn't do it. Again, I have big emotions, big feelings. I can't do that with someone. I tried it, though, and I would never do that again. And then that's where I started feeling sad. And then I went to go visit my 2 sisters in Massachusetts. So I was just like, let me just go for a week for my birthday, and let me just, like, let me just get out of here. Yeah. Like, I'm feeling tired. Like, maybe this will help me. And when I went to go visit my sisters, it was the 17th, and then the next day was the 18th, which was my birthday, and they got like a little cake for me, and they sung Las Mañanitas, which is like a Latino version of like it's not happy birthday verbatim, but it's a way to say happy birthday.
Yeah.
And I remember being in that moment and just looking at them. Like, everyone's so happy singing me happy birthday. Little did they know, I was so happy they were singing happy birthday to me. And I was just like, wow, like, these are my sisters.
Yeah.
Like, this feels like family. Like, wow. Like, I don't think they knew how big of a deal that was for me at that time. And I was just like, wow, like, why am I sad?
Yeah.
You know, and then that night I went, when I was in bed, I remember just curling up. I was crying. I don't know why, right?
Yeah.
All this time I was like, man, I'm really sad. And also during that time I was learning about like trauma too. And I was like, do I have a trauma? You know, and just really learning a lot about my feelings at the same time. Like learning that, wow, like everything that happened to me in high school was crazy. Yeah. Everything that happened to me as a young adult was crazy. Nobody knew what I was going through.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going through. This is really bad. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, this like, no wonder I acted the way that I did. I'm not surprised with the events that happened, considering my emotions and my feelings, and like nobody just knew. And it was really like the understanding my emotions. Maybe not looking back, I think maybe that's what was probably getting to me, was like like God was really pulling me at that time, like to understand, like, hey, like this was what was happening.
Yeah.
And also that I had so much anger against my mom. I was like, my mom, me have anger against my mom. And that was really hard for me, because I was like, my mom, the person I know, like as a daughter of an immigrant, like we have to learn at a young age that they came to America to really, like, as a sacrifice for everything that they did. And we have to understand why they have to work. We have to understand why they can't be there. We have to understand why they're sacrificing everything so they can make our dreams come true. Yeah. Like, they have to lose out on their dreams so we can thrive. Yeah. And as a young child, you're just like, what? Like, we have to do what? And so it was just a lot of things happening at that time. And so when it was my birthday and I was very crying, my sister, so I have the oldest is Yanira, the middle one is Carla. So Carla comes in and she's like, are you okay? And I was just like, no, wow. I'm not okay. She was like, what's wrong? Like, and I was like, I don't know. I feel sad for some reason. I'm just crying. And then I think I started telling her about the situationship that I was in at the time. And I think it was really difficult for me, because even though I was like, 20, I just turned 25, I was like, I don't get what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. And she listens to me, and she was like, you should really talk to Yanira, my oldest sister. And I was like, what? Yeah. I'm not going to talk to her, because when I was like 21, she would talk to me about God and everything. And I'm like, shut up. Yeah. Like, why talk? Like, I don't want to do it. Like, don't talk to me. Like it bothered me, because you're just like, why? I don't get why you're doing this. But again, like 4 years later, I'm in this situation. She was like, you should really talk to Yanira. And I was just like, and I trusted Carla. And so I was just like, okay, I guess I'll talk to my sister, tell her what the heck I'm doing. And so the next day, my sister was in the living room. Yanira was in the living room, and Carla was like, go talk to her. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, fine. And it was really like almost like a step in faith, or like a leap in faith or something like that. And I remember talking to her, and I was telling her like what I was going through. I was like, I am in this situation. I don't understand what's happening. I don't know if this guy likes me, or like why he's playing games. This guy was playing games at the time, and I couldn't see it or understand it. And I told my sister, and she was like, her first question to me was, okay, have you had sex with this guy? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay. like, okay. And I was like, okay, what? Like, I want, when she's thinking, and I'm just like, I want to know more. Like, what are you going to tell me? I want to know. And for some reason, my heart was very open to listening to her. It was usually like, oh my gosh, stop talking to me. This time, I was like really open to talking to her. And she was like, Cindy, God creates every one of his children perfectly. He doesn't leave any detail out. He's a part of every detail in your making. And I was like, And she was just like, as a woman, when our bodies are very sacred, and it's not meant for us to give our bodies to other people. It's meant for one person and for you to, in marriage. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I'm from California. I'm from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I love talking about where I'm from. I said it one time. But it's a very progressive area to be in. And I was raised completely different from what my sister is talking about. So in California, you're free. You're able to do whatever you want. Like, do whatever you want. It's like, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And here's my sister telling me something completely different. And my heart, for the first time, was open to it.
Yeah.
And, I just kept thinking about it. And she was like, let's go to church today. And then we'll go to, and she goes, you should, when you go back home, find a church. Just find a church and start there. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I spent the rest of the week there. And then when I come home, I'm just reflecting on this entire, like, for some reason, what she said stuck to me. For some reason, I was thinking about everything that she was saying. Like, I don't listen. I didn't listen. I didn't listen to anybody. I didn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
I know I trusted, like, Carla in a sense, but to trust them with my life, I didn't trust anybody. But for some reason, again, what my sister said really stuck to me. And I think from there, I went back home on Sunday, and then I went back to work on Monday. And on Monday, I was like, I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, I kept thinking about what my sister, it was like replaying in my head what my sister was saying, go to a church, go to a church, go to a church.
Wow.
And I didn't know who to talk to. I just talked to this one lady who was like a mother figure, was like, oh, I have a church. It's Monday. I was like, what church is open on Monday? She was like, oh, it's not like church. I mean, it's church, but like we have like a Bible study on Monday, and you're so welcome to come. And I was like, I'm going to be there. Give me the address. I just need to go. And that day, I just remember I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was just like, I need to go. And the moment that I went there, everyone was so welcoming. Everyone was so loving. And I was just like, hi, like, I don't know what to expect here, like, everybody's so nice. And then I just hear the pastor, like, talking and, like, giving his little word on a Monday, right? And all I could do was cry. Like, all I did was cry. Like, there was so much in me. Like, here I am growing up being so independent, learning to be tough, learning to not be weak, learning that, basically trusting in myself my entire life. I've been doing this. And the one moment where I feel like I could, like, release everything I was feeling, all the hurt that I was feeling, like depression I was feeling, everything, because it was a lot of stuff going on. I let it go in that one moment.
Wow.
And that was the day that I gave my life to Christ.
Wow. Man, that's a blessing. He's with you the whole time. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had you.
That was a good moment.
And so this church was a church that you decided to, like, attend and up until you moved here? You got baptized there?
No, I didn't get baptized there. Getting baptized took me a while. Yeah. But I stayed there until I moved to the East Coast. And I remember giving my life to Christ that day, but it was still kind of rocky the first several months because I was in this situationship.
Yeah.
And I I tried to listen to my sister's guidance, but I'm still struggling with trusting myself.
Yeah.
And my sister was like, "You can't. You should get out of this." And I was like, "I don't know." Like, so that's the reason why I moved to the East Coast was for this dude. He lived in Henrico.
Oh, that's where I'm from.
He lived in Henrico, and that's how I came over here. But I was still fighting, I guess, with my flesh for a few more months.
Yeah. I mean, sanctification, over time. So you get here, you find a church, you start plugging in, you get out of that relationship. And so did you get baptized at the district church?
I got baptized at TDC, yeah. And in 2020, I think it was, for some reason, it was a very difficult decision for me because my family, my sister specifically, they're like, "You need to get baptized in a Catholic church."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, what? Like, because it's so different for them. And, like, I was just going back and forth. And I was like, does it really make a difference? And it was really hard for me. But I know in 2020, I think it was in the summer, I was like, I need to get baptized. Like, I can't wait anymore. Like, I need to get baptized. And that was, for some reason, it was the most emotional day. I was crying all day until I got baptized.
I love that.
It was a good moment. It was a good moment. I love that moment.
I love that. And so, like, what's different about your faith journey now than it was in 2018 when you first gave your life to Christ?
My life now, I feel like I'm about to come up 6 years since I made the decision. And I feel like God really has moved and made such a difference in my life. He has really, even to this day, I'm continuing to heal from like everything that's happened. Yeah. And God shows me time and time again how when he means it, when he says he will never leave you nor forsake you, I really had to put my trust in him so many times, even to this day, finding my way to trust him. And I remember my sister told me to read the New Testament first, and that really changed me. Like, I remember reading, in the beginning, reading the gospel, like when I read Matthew, it was like, okay. When I read Mark, I was like, wait, what? Like, okay. And then I read Luke, and I was like, wait a second. What's going on? And when I read John, I was just in tears. Like, it really, God really takes his time in working in anybody and everyone. And I think that's what he did. He was like cleansing me for years. Like someone who has always been in a relationship. Like now I'm healing from like my relationships. It's like not about being in a relationship. What I was lacking was love. And the only person who was able to feel that love was God. Yeah. And he just really worked in me, and he shows me like in the communities that I work in as well, like why I'm there, and because of my experience, like everything that he put me through, as hard as it was for me to help the community that I work in today, because the kids that go through the things, the immigrant families, and I'm just like, do we have the same story, Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like God really shows me and has really worked in me on how to just guide me in my faith. And I trust him. It's hard. I battle with it a lot sometimes about trusting myself again. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to the same thing. I have to trust God because God knows what's best for me. And he has shown me that he has been there for me, even when I didn't choose him.
I love that. And I think it's so powerful when people come to Christ and like they have experience in the world, because when they convert, you're able to see the difference. Mm-hmm. Like even me, like, hey, I tried this side, but this side is better. This side over here with Christ is better. Mm-hmm. It's more happier. We're fulfilled, And so there's some young women who's listening to this podcast. They heard your story. They feel like they're in the valley. They feel like they're alone. They grew up, feeling alone. What's something you want to leave with them?
I would say, and I feel like this is what I usually say, is that, when in moments that we trust ourselves, and the world kind of like teaches us to trust ourselves. Yeah. When you tried everything, when you think it's the end, even if you think that you're not worthy, or even if you think that you've gone too far, like it's not the end, and you haven't gone too far. And if you tried everything and you feel like there's nowhere else to go to the nearest church. And there are people there that will equip you whenever you're ready, and God will meet you exactly where you are, no matter what you have done.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks for joining the podcast. I appreciate your vulnerability, and I love you and I'm proud of you. Thanks for listening for the Message Podcast.